This show is presented by the 323 Network. You can watch all your favorite 323 friends and shows on the 323 Network YouTube channel, follow us on all social media platforms at 323Reid, and support us as we continue to grow at patreon.com/323Reid. That's 323REID.
Welcome back to another episode of the 323. As you can tell by this heavy Pakistani accent, I am Zuhair. Reid could not join us today because he's trying to find them boys. It's been very quiet the last couple of weeks. Still brings a smile on my face, and we're just trying to make sure that they're all right. Taking over as host of the show today is the host of the 323 College Shame Day, and the man who's always one square away from winning a free t-shirt at a bingo game. Introducing Scott Ellia.
Oh, you're so sweet. You are so sweet. So thank you for rubbing in the fact that I have yet to win fucking bar bingo. And actually, after you left, the last game was blackout bingo. So you had to get every single one in there. And I used all three cards between the two of us that we had left over, and I still didn't win.
But didn't somebody else get a blackout to win, like just the squares or something?
Yep.
Yeah,
because they had to get like just the border around the card, but it ended up being a blackout bingo. But hey, oh well. I guess can't win them all. But I'm surprised that Dad is trusting Captain Mid himself to head the ship at this point again. So this will be a very interesting episode. But there's nothing really too crazy aside from it seems like every NFL team has a new head coach.
Yeah. There's a couple that are missing. I feel like a lot of the top candidates that we were thinking about, I feel like teams just lost their patience. They just got too far in the playoffs, and they were just like, we need something right now because we're so shitty that we just got to get this ball rolling. We got to get the plan together. Just throw money at whoever's available and just move on.
Right. It's kind of like the holiday season when like you're just waiting for something to go on sale and it never does. And by the time you finally get around to buying a gift for somebody, all the good shit's gone and you have to like just get something in there. But yeah, Gerard Mayo, New England's retaining him. I'm very interested to see how that hire is going to go. Obviously he's following up Bill Belichick, who is going to go down as one of the greatest to ever do it across all major sports.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that all of that like had to have been talked about during the season, like he was a picked successor. It wasn't like surprise firing and pick whoever's next. Like it looked like they had that in mind throughout the whole season.
Right. And how do you feel if you're Belichick's son, who's on the coaching staff at the same point in time, and you got skipped over for Jared Mayo? I mean, it makes sense. You can't just be given a job unless he is a Nepo baby, but oh well. So good luck to him. And then Antonio Pierce.
Who knows what skeletons are in Kraft's closet?
Oh God,
right
lots of massage oil. That's what's in his closet. And then thankfully, like the Raiders actually did something right for a change, and then actually retaining Antonio Pierce. I'm actually really excited to see that, even though he went after when he took over, they went 5-4 after they took over,
something like that.
But you can see it was a completely different energy in that locker room. Like they were a lot more, the players were more engaged. They wanted to play. They were kind of, even though they had nothing to play for, they still went out, still trying to grind.
Yeah, they found the man of the people, the one that could rally everybody up and make them actually want to play and fight for something, even if it's meaningless games. But it all comes down to getting the staff to actually execute offensive, defensive plans. If they don't have that, then being a man of the people is not going to mean anything in the next coming seasons.
Absolutely not. And talk about the upcoming seasons. I feel so bad that this gentleman's getting his first shot at being a head coach, and that's Brian Callahan taking over the Tennessee Titans, who are just in shambles. I mean, you have a guy who's worked with the likes of, Peyton Manning, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow. He's been the OC for the Cincinnati Bengals since 2019, and you saw what that offense was doing. Is there any hope in Tennessee, even with him at the head of the table?
Don't No, I think that's going to be one of those, like, we'll just see how it goes.
I do not feel good for him. I mean, you got Derrick Henry looks like he's on his way out. They've kind of leveraged their star players in the past and trade them all away seemingly to the Philadelphia Eagles at this point. So that is not going to be a fun rebuild. So hopefully he gets a little bit more leash.
I mean, at
And
least they have like quarterback options in house already. So
yeah,
for them, it's just kind of like picking between one of the three that they have and then kind of building around that. Where everybody else seems to be having the opposite problem, where there is weapons and stuff, but just no one to pull the trigger. So I'm not even saying it's a fun situation. It's just more unique than what the rest of the league has to deal with.
Right. And if you're going to get anybody to come take over, especially like you said, you have two relatively solid potential starting quarterbacks there in Tennessee already, and you're having this, new
No
modern offense QB. No. But if anyone's going to give him a shot, it's going to be him with his offense that he's been running, bringing that to Tennessee and kind of just doing the opposite, because what Vrabel brought to the table is more defensive minded. So you're kind of flipping the script, and you can only score so many points on defense, so you got to bring in somebody who's offensive minded. But speaking about defense, we got the most recent hiring of Raheem Morris. He's leaving the LA Rams and he's taking over for the head coaching position at Atlanta Falcons. And I, for one, am shocked because I think Belichick had 2 interviews with them.
Yeah, big shocker for sure. We were highly convinced that Belichick would be the right fit over there because of all the offensive weapons that they had. And they really do just need a quarterback and to be like fine-tuned a little bit. I'm interested to see how Raheem Morris does over there. So it went from like, ooh, this could be interesting to, okay, I'm just curious now. But the fact that Vrabel and Belichick are still looking around and there's like, 2 teams left needing coaches? Seattle, yes. Washington. Who else?
And Washington already came out saying that they're not going to be looking to interview anybody until this weekend, potentially.
Yeah, because they did I think it's like the second or third Dan Quinn interview, and then everybody else has been like virtual. They did the Bobby Slowick one, and then they did the virtual ones within league parameters for Ben Johnson. So,
right.
I mean, yeah, it's wild that they still have options.
Oh, Panthers.
No, Panthers.
Panthers. They picked up Canales, Dave Canales from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's right. So yeah, that's gone. So yeah, it is just the Seahawks and the Commanders.
Which I thought the Panthers were just going to get whoever's left. The fact that they actually got somebody while the postseason was still going on was quite shocking.
Right. And I'm even more shocked that the Falcons went that route, because you got to think about the amount of talent you have on the offensive side of the ball with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan. You're, like you said, you're kind of a quarterback away from being a very potent offense, and you're bringing a defensive-minded coach like Raheem Morris. What's good with him is that he's definitely a leader of the locker room. They're going to look up to him. They're going to follow his lead, and hopefully they correct that defense, because the defense was going to need some help too.
If I remember correctly, Raheem Morris actually started on the offensive side of the ball and then moved over. So he does have a history there, but also like working under McVay for so long. Like, you got to think like he's made some connections or something that he'll bring in to be the offensive coordinator to kind of like fine tune all of that.
Right. And I mean, and he's going to have a little bit of a edge up on everybody, because if you remember, he was the head coach for the Buccaneers for about 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. And I think that was his first kind of stint at being a head coach. Yeah. And then he kind of took that step back. He was a D-backs coach for you guys in Washington. And then he went to the Falcons for a while. And then I believe he was the interim head coach there for a second too, wasn't he? In Atlanta?
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. In like 2021, 2020,
Morris
something like
was
that.
last in Atlanta 3 years ago, and he was the interim head coach after Dan Quinn was fired after the team's 0-5 start.
Right. So Morris, it's nice having somebody
as the interim coach, in Atlanta hired Arthur Smith to replace him.
Now, if you're Arthur Blank, you're like, well, what if I just had hired Raheem Morris full time and not even done the Arthur Smith thing at this point? But hey, you live and you learn. Like you said, Dave Canales, he got hired in Carolina, so that should be interesting. It's another young and up and coming head coach. How old is he? He's got to be like 40 something.
I don't even know how to spell his name, so I'm trusting you to look that up.
Oh God. But the biggest fish of all, Jim Harbaugh, longtime head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, just recently won the national championship there in Ann Arbor. He is leaving college football for the sunny coast of Los Angeles and going to be the new head coach for the Chargers. Now,
He's 42.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Canals, not Harbaugh.
Let's make that very clear.
Well, and now he's back. So he's back in the NFL. You know, he was the head coach for the 49ers for a long time. He went to the Super Bowl and played against his brother there in Baltimore. Do you think with having a young quarterback like Herbert that he's going to be able to come in and actually bring some of that magic that he's been kind of accustomed to bring into teams?
Yeah, I think it is going to be a good revamp for them, but I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think it is going to be a better version of Sean Payton, where it started off really bad and then like they started kind of getting the ball rolling and their gears turning a little better. So I do feel like it is going to be a good change for them and the weapons are going to be utilized a lot better. I think it is going to take a couple of drafts just to get the pieces that he needs to actually execute his plans.
Right. And especially because you see a lot of these guys coming from college to the NFL. I mean, thankfully, he has the background in the NFL already. But, you know, think about Urban Meyer, Matt Rule, Chip Kelly, Nick Saban. You know, a lot of these really great coaches in college, it never ended up working out in the NFL. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Michigan now that he's gone and how much of an impact that is going to have, not just there in Michigan, but just college football in general, because you have a brilliant mind like him there in Michigan. Now he's going to create a vacuum. So I think you're going to start seeing what you've been seeing down in Alabama, where a lot of these kids and a lot of these recruits are going to start backing out and finding somewhere else because they don't know what's going to happen. Especially in the Big Ten. You got Ryan Day, the head coach there in Ohio State. He's been poaching players left and right from Alabama and has a really great transfer portal kind of signing period this go around. So I think with him now being gone, the door's wide open, especially in the Big Ten. So I'm excited to see what that's going to bring next year. Oh, and also the fallout from all the allegations and the cheating scandals and the this, that, and the fourth. It looks like he's going to be pulling a Pete Carroll and escaping the aftermath when, you know, Pete Carroll left USC for that Seattle job. So
another
good for you, Jim. And I thought that the Chargers were going to try to make a bigger push for Pete Carroll, but I guess they were able to get him in. And look who we have joining us.
Hello.
Speaking about sunny California.
What's up, guys? Hey, let me know if I sound okay because my dog ate my headset.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh man. And for those who are just joining us, that is the voice of the Big Chief Rio Luis. How are you doing this evening?
Good, man. I was sorry, I had to run out and get something to eat, and then I didn't want to interrupt you guys earlier.
Was it a burrito?
It was actually a burrito, as I got leftover hot sauce here.
Nice.
Hey, there you go.
But yeah, no, I'm doing good. I mean, a lot of people. You guys might know I was sick about a week ago. I had to go to the old hospital for a little oil change. And, you know, a little tune up, but I'm back on the mend now. And, you know, the three remaining Charger fans in San Diego are all very happy about the Harbaugh signing.
Very nice.
There was that silence you hear is all of the San Diego Charger and LA Charger fans going, hooray!
And I was glad that I actually was able to. I looked over to the screen and saw you join in as we were talking about San Diego and the Chargers and bringing Harbaugh in, because I was very interested to see from your point of view how the overall tone was. Which it doesn't surprise me. It sounds like they're excited.
No, I mean they posted the. The big winner is the San Diego Chargers social media, because they did post that like the white smoke thing like they do with the Pope, like we have chosen the new Chargers head coach, and then they posted the who got it better than us, right? But literally, dude, there's a couple of Chargers fans like, all right, yeah, we got the Chargers, and then it was like, all right, nobody, but they had to put down their weed and surfboard for like 30 seconds, and then they're like, all right, back to living in sunny California.
Oh my God, the Chargers actually have this picture as like their profile photo.
Oh,
the one we have in the corner.
Oh yeah. No,
that's hilarious.
I was more interested in the fact that the Raiders hired the GM of the team that they beat by like 45 points. Right? They hired Telesco, I think, as their GM, and he was the GM of the team they destroyed. That one seemed a little bit weird for me. There's a little a little incest happening amongst the AFC West teams. That's never a bad thing.
You're just what, robbing Peter to pay Paul at this point? You're just mixing it all up.
Sure. And then I mean, I'm sure you guys have already talked about the fact that nobody wants Bill Belichick, apparently.
No Belichick, no Pete Carroll, and no Vrabel.
And Ron Rivera. Nobody wants Rivera but Ron.
No Vrabel and no the weirdest obviously is, and I'm sure you guys talked about it last week, is that the Cowboys stuck with their coach, man. That was like the mother of all. Wait, what? You have the best coach of all time. You have Vrabel, who would have been a stud for the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Even Pete Carroll in Texas, I think, would have been, with that defense. Pete Carroll in Texas would have been a good move. And instead, they stick with McCarthy and all the Cowboys. And then it's just like, I mean, there's nothing better than seeing Cowboy fans cry. And it was like, all right, at least we're gonna have a new coach. At least we're gonna start fresh. We're gonna get Belichick. It's gonna be awesome. And then it was like, wah, wah.
It makes me wonder, depending on how the rest of the vacancies go, if Dan Quinn's going to stay or if he's actually going to take a defensive coordinator position somewhere else.
Well, there's been a couple teams that let go of their defensive coordinators, so he could easily just swap to go somewhere.
But would he want to?
If you're him, would you rather stay there, or would you actually try to go find something new or stay somewhere comfortable, knowing that your head coach ahead of you is potentially on the chopping block and could be a mid-season firing next year, and you just take over?
I don't know, because the whole thing was that, like, if McCarthy lost his job, then they're heavily considering, like, Dan Quinn to take over.
Right.
But with McCarthy staying in the way that the last game ended and him, like, interviewing and stuff, like, if he doesn't get a head coaching job, does he want to leave Dallas, really?
Right. I think you have it pretty easy there in Dallas. I mean, you look at the amount of talent that they have on that defensive side of the ball. You kind of just keep your nose down and just focus, because it's not like there's not going to be any head coaching positions in the future, because the only two that are even available right now is Seattle that I linked him to. I think he might go back to Seattle, and then the Commanders. But you got to think about who's all available. You got Bill Belichick, who's clearly the number one candidate at this point, just based off his tenure. But then you have Ben Johnson, who can't even interview with anybody right now because, being the OC of the Detroit Lions.
League.
Right. And then from then on out, like Dan Quinn, and then you have Bobby Slowick, who has come out of nowhere down there in Houston, being the OC there. You got Brian Flores. The defensive
coordinator for the Lions has been interviewing a lot too.
Oh,
I'm forgetting Glenn. Something Glenn.
Listen, let's not forget that Adam Gase is out there available still.
Who?
So, somebody's gonna pick up offensive juggernaut genius Adam Gase, and
Oh God. Well, speaking about offensive juggernauts, this past divisional round of the playoffs left everything on the table. I think every game was exciting to watch. There wasn't really anything where it was boring. Just to recap, you had the Ravens over the Texans 34-10, the Niners over the Packers 24-21, Lions over the Bucks 31-23, and the Chiefs edging out the Bills 27-24. Do we feel bad for Josh Allen?
Kind of. Just because I got nothing against him. It's just, I don't get what happens to the playoffs for that man.
White Culpepper, as he is called.
Well, going back to the Chargers, this Buffalo Bills team is the Phillip Rivers Chargers. Like in the AFC, like they're going up against the Mannings, and you got to go against Brady every year, and you just can't get past any of that. So you have him, and you have the AFC who's loaded with top to bottom with quarterback talent. You just can't break through. So it's like, what's really next? Like, what's the problem? Do you either one of you see a move that they should kind of look into to try to take advantage of the window?
They're kind of stuck in that same Cowboys mode where they're just good enough to not make major changes.
Yeah,
that's what I always tell my. That's what I tell my Cowboy friends all the time. I'm like, Yep, you guys are just good enough that you're not going to fire your coach. You're not going to make any changes. You're just going to try to patch the things and do it.
Let's stick with
But-
Dak.
But if the Bills had prime Chargers, LaDainian Tomlinson, they would be I'm saying, they would be there. But yeah, I think I would love to see an NFL team like the Bills do the Milwaukee Bucks move, which is even though we're winning, or like the Cavs move from 2000 when they fired their coach, or the Bucks. They're with 33-10, and they're firing their coach because they realize even though they're winning, it's not good enough. And looking at that landscape, the Chicago Cubs did it. There was a manager available, and even though they had a decent manager, they're like, let's move. So I think that I'd love to see a football team do that move. The Bills or the Cowboys were the prime candidates to do that. And who knows? Maybe after all shakes out, I mean, I know there's usually like a Black Monday for NFL coaches, but I don't see why they couldn't be a late off-season firing or change.
Right. Especially once you start seeing all these other vacancies get filled up, and fast forward, the Seahawks get their guy and the Commanders get their guy. You see who's kind of left on the board, and you just take an outside perspective, like, okay, are any of these guys better than who I already have? And if the answer is yes, then yeah, you're right. You do something drastic and get rid of him and try to push that envelope a little bit more.
You got to be cold-blooded, man. I mean, if you're the GM or the owner, why not? Who cares?
Right.
Someone reminded me the other day that Tug Peterson won a Super Bowl, had one bad year, and then got fired.
Right. Yeah, like at the end of the day, if it's a business, and you have all these people who are like trying to question, like, if Stephon Diggs is done. I mean, he just finished season 9, number 4 with the Buffalo Bills. If you look at his stat line, he's now, that's his 6th consecutive 1,000-yard season. I guess as far as it being a little quieter, yeah, he didn't hit double digits in touchdowns this year, but I believe I saw reports that there was like a mutual agreement that he's not going to be demanding a trade. He's going to stick it out there in Buffalo.
How much longer is his contract?
That's a good question. Sounds like a question for Google.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of those stud wide receivers that I wonder is just going to be like Megatron. Where
If you had
he goes up, he keeps winning, but like just can't make it all the way through.
If you're a franchise, who would you rather extend? Would you rather extend Diggs or Mike Evans?
Ooh. Evans,
you think has a little bit more? I mean, he's a big, tall guy. He could transition to tight end if he wanted to at some point.
Yeah,
right.
Evans,
especially because like he doesn't even need. He could take a back seat. He doesn't need to be the clear number 1 at that point. You can bring in the next young up and coming, and he'd be the very solid number 2. You pretty much have 2 number 1s at that point.
And Diggs relies a lot on his speed and elusiveness, which I think can go down quicker than a big body just like muscling someone for the ball.
Listen, what the Commanders need to do is get rid of that F1 McLaren and trade him over to the Jets. That's what Commanders need to do.
No.
That guy's clearly had a bad year. You guys need to move on from that guy.
Nope.
Oh man.
Nope.
Who's going to coach the Commanders?
Hopefully Ben Johnson.
You guys are going with the hot assistant, huh?
Hot assistant's still there. We got the hot GM.
I'd like to see like every year there's the hot assistant and the hot assistant coach, offensive coordinator, defense. But how many times does that really actually work out?
Probably haven't even hired a GM in 20 years. Like, this is all new territory for us.
That's a good thing, though.
Maybe you guys should see like one of your top performing like Walmart managers, see if go up to the lower ranks and pull up a nice young GM that has like 6 stores in Alabama that are banging and then bring him on.
Oh God, I could only imagine. Oh well. But
Ted Lasso.
The reverse Ted Lasso. Oh Jesus Christ.
Latasso.
Somebody from the Premier League just shows up.
But you bring up Mike Evans, and that's another team of these losers, the Bucks. Going into this offseason, you have the likes of Mike Evans, Levante David, all-pro safety Antoine Winfield Jr., who are all on the block to be potential, free agents. And all 3 of them are going to be snatched up pretty quick, even with their age being concerned with like Mike Evans, Levante David especially. You have Baker Mayfield, who came in on a 1-year contract. and he looked a lot like Baker Mayfield of old in Cleveland when he got him to the playoffs. Of course, he got to the playoff mode and kind of squandered the chance there for a second. If you're Tampa Bay, are you going to resign him and extend him out, or are you going to try to roll the dice and just keep it in rebuild mode for another season or two?
I would definitely keep Baker and reload on weapons because I think they just need to get younger. There's a lot of key pieces on that team, but I think they need to start like grooming those replacements and just re-solidifying just kind of the weapons and everything. You still have Kyle Trask there. I mean, we don't know what he is, but he's there and he's learned under veteran starting quarterback. So it's like he's got to have picked up something at this point. So that if you have Baker, these younger weapons can learn, I think, a little bit more efficiently. So when his time is done, all you got to do is kind of, whether it's Trask or drafting a new quarterback, just kind of like plug and play. Assuming Bowles has the technique to do that.
Todd Bowles, you got number one. You got your cornerstone coach right there, so you're locked in there, obviously. Listen, much like when Reid offered me Nico Collins in a fantasy trade, if they would have told you at the beginning of the year, Scott, all right, one playoff win with Baker, you get to the second round, you would have clicked accept.
Oh,
accept. Immediately you would have clicked accept. So by all measures, it was a success, and again, did well enough that who else is out there? Are you gonna go?
Nobody.
You're gonna throw money at Cousins after a torn leg. You know what I mean?
Carson Wentz is there.
Got Carson Wentz out there. Fuck that.
You got Carson Wentz out there. You're gonna, you know what I'm saying?
I'm just saying.
Uncle Rico.
Baker went to the Rams in the middle of the season, had a great game, and then started for the Bucks. Carson Wentz got signed in the middle of the season,
and Baker at least he's throwing it to Evans. Like he wasn't throwing it to his other receivers in Cleveland, but he's throwing it to Evans. So he was letting her rip, man. He was seeing the throw and saying, "Fuck it, Mike Evans down the sideline, let's go."
Well, and see what's good with their positioning in the draft. I think they locked in at number 25 or 26 for the draft. That's where you're going to start seeing a lot of these marquee younger wide receivers coming out this year. I think right now they're linked to get Florida State's Keon Coleman. That would be an awesome get because I saw what he did in Michigan State and then also transferring to Florida State. I think that would be a really great get, especially if you can be under the tutelage of a Chris Godwin and a Mike Evans at the same time, and then just kind of go from there. But for the Bucks, I mean, they're in the top 10 for their salary cap isn't an issue. They got money. The draft should be okay. But yeah, you're right. Like, who else is out there that could take over for Baker Mayfield? And the answer is nobody. No, fuck that. Would
you sign up for like 3 years, 75 right now?
I'd give him 3.
But I think he's gonna want more than 25 a year though. He's probably gonna ask for 40 a year.
Hey,
you gonna give him Daniel Jones money?
Hey, I'm going to give whatever's going to cost because every year it's just going to keep going higher. So buy in now. You're going to screw yourself if you just don't take care of it.
You trade for Daniel Jones.
Give me your prognostication for what the Baker Mayfield contract is going to look. I'm going to say they're going to have to overpay a little bit. But really it's like the other thing is like who's going to have to go overpay for Baker Mayfield if it's not the Bucks? Like who else needs a quarterback that would overpay? Maybe Atlanta. Maybe Atlanta might try to go get him, or a team like that. Maybe the Raiders. So I think they're going to have to pay a little bit of premium. I'm going to say like 3 years, $120.
Ooh. Because how old is he? He's what, 20? He's probably what,
28, 29, right? Close to 30.
He is 28. Yeah, so 28. I wouldn't want to keep him after 32. So I'd probably go 3 years. Like you said, you're going to have to overspend a little bit just to make sure he's not tempted to go anywhere else. I'll go 3 years, $130, and they're really locking it in.
130.
I'm going to give 130. But then you have the other two, like you have the Packers and the Texans, and the trajectory for both of those teams look like it's nothing but up. And I think like a lot of these teams, like you just trust the process and keep adding little pieces. Don't make any drastic changes at this point. Is that totally far-fetched? Am I missing something with those two?
No, I think both of them have their quarterback set. I think there's just they have young players that just need experience. All you got to do is upgrade the ones that you feel like are slacking. I don't have an answer to like what that is right now, but the fact that both of them made it as far as they did and that they're such competitive teams is really good for both of them.
Yeah, the Texans were my darling all year, so you can't. You hit a home run. You got what everybody conceived as the second best quarterback, and it turns out to be by far and away the number one. And they crushed the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So you crush the draft. Now you just tweak, and then you got your quarterback, and you got the quarterback, and you got weapons. You got Nico. You got weapons around him already. And that defense was solid. I think you just. The one thing I think teams aren't doing enough of is building out those lines. So if you get that quarterback and you got weapons, just best offensive lineman on the board.
That was been my biggest recommendation to Zoo and Reid for the Commanders is just spend all the money that you have on offensive defensive line. Just get all the fat guys you can.
Yep. Trade back, get more picks, and just line.
Just take the Dallas Cowboy method that they did forever.
Except not get the people hurt in the preseason and then have to go to your scraps back.
I mean, I guess hindsight's always 2020. But moving forward to conference championship weekend, we have the Chiefs versus the Ravens at 3:00 on Sunday, and then the night game is the Lions versus the Niners. I could have sworn they would have flip-flopped those. Is that because they're getting a West Coast bias with the Niners for the 6:30 game?
Probably. Yeah, probably because you don't want the cold night in San Francisco.
That makes a lot of sense.
We didn't put the odds on this.
I can get to odds. Don't you worry.
Let me ask you this. I don't know if you guys mentioned it, but if you're the Packers, do you extend Love right away or you let him play out the contract?
I'm letting him play out the contract. I'm not letting him get comfortable. He had a great season, and I really liked what I saw out of him, but I'm not letting him get comfortable.
Wait, they just have to figure out his 5th-year option right now, right? He's on year 4.
I think they already had to pick it up. I think they had to pick it up already.
I think they picked it up last season.
Yeah, they had already picked it up, but
So this upcoming season is year 5 for him or year 6?
I think it's 5.
Okay. Yeah, you might as well just see how he does this year and then offer him a contract after.
The Ravens are currently 4-point favorites, and they're giving 7.5 to the Niners. I'm tempted to take the 7.5 and put it on the Lions at that point. It might happen. But their story.
I banged both underdogs in this. I've been banging the underdog all playoffs.
Oh boy.
Woof.
Yeah.
Ow. But no, I mean, you talk about storylines. There's storylines in all these teams. You got the Lions, who could potentially go to win their first Super Bowl. You have the Niners, who are that would be their first Super Bowl since what, 94? No.
Probably
94. The Niners. When was the last Niners Super Bowl win?
Super Bowl win. I was like, we were just talking about how they played the Ravens not too long ago.
Super Bowl win would be like 90, 95, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
You got the Ravens with Lamar, and he stood on business this year and proved to everybody, tried to silence the haters to get that maximum contract, because he looks like he might be ending up being the regular season MVP and could eventually be a Super Bowl winning quarterback and MVP at the same time. Oh, and then you got the Chiefs. I am telling you, Roger Goodell and the NFL want the shot. And me and Zoo talked about this the other day when we had dinner. They want the shot of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce on the 50-yard line with the streamers and the confetti going, and they want that shot. So out of all 4 of these teams, Luis, I'll go to you first. What storyline are you kind of following the closest out of all 4?
I guess the biggest question is Tay-Tay going to Baltimore? I don't know if she will. I don't know. I said it when the playoffs started that the winner of the Chiefs-Dolphins game was going to win the Super Bowl. So I'm still sticking with that. So for me, the most interesting is the Detroit Lions. Just like the way that city and that team embraces itself, and the toughness, eating people's kneecaps and ankles and all that good stuff. I love it. I'm rooting for Chiefs Lions. And the Niners are like the least impressive number 1 seed that I can remember in the last, several years, because they're the favorites and there's still so many question marks about them. The quarterback, can he handle pressure? Can he handle, they won 1 game finally coming from behind. They're the team that could just go MIA any second. So I think that Lions Chiefs game, and then I think we have 2 awesome matches. Honestly, like Lamar's MVP year versus Mahomes and the team of destiny and of money and of the Illuminati, and then you have the Detroit Lions versus the Niner gang, etc. So, but for me, the most impressive for me, even though there's all that thing is happening, is Detroit and whether this underdog team that I've been banging can win and get to a fucking Super Bowl and have all those Eminem, the power of M, going to the games 2 for 2.
Well, it's like, and if the Lions do end up going to the Super Bowl and winning, and Dan Campbell bringing that trophy to Detroit, do you just give him a blank check and say, please don't go anywhere, just stay here forever?
Whatever you want. Lifetime contract.
Bro, you ain't going nowhere. Just stay. What about you, Zoo?
Lifetime contract. He loses both of his coordinators next year. Then it's like,
I will say, Luis, though, with the game being on the upcoming Saturday. So what's that? The 27th? No, it's Sunday, 28th. Taylor Swift, her next Eras Tour start date isn't until February 7th. So she has nothing else going on.
She ain't got shit to do.
Oh, and coincidentally, the Super Bowl is on February 11th, and her last day in Tokyo is February 10th. So do with that what you will. She has a week gap between there and Australia.
Our homegirl Lizzie, that's our pop correspondent on my Mi Gente Show podcast. She broke down the entire relationship, all the theories, all the conspiracies about her being in Deadpool 3 and all these other things, and like down to the concert dates. And he'd be like, yes, she would be able to make it to the Super Bowl. And he does have a bye week when she's in Argentina and all this stuff. And so, man, that shit gets deep.
Yeah, check out the Mi Gente Show for those details, because I don't think Scott has the patience for it.
Fuck Taylor Swift, a talentless mid singer. But Zood, is there any storyline that's kind of sticking out to you before we jump into Ricks versus Gricks, where you're kicking everyone's ass?
I mean, I think it really just comes down to the fact that everyone's talking about, like, look how many first-round quarterbacks are in the playoffs. Like, what if Brock Purdy is the one that wins it? They're talking first round. By the way, the last pick of the draft is the one to win it. I think that's the most fascinating thing. I really don't think that he would be as successful as he is in anybody else's offense, but the kid's got grit. He is a baller. He does want to win. That is one of the most balanced and well-coached teams in the NFL. So it's just, if they are the ones to make it, that will just be so incredible for him.
Right. That's like a Hollywood storyline. Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft. I mean, I can remember seeing him ball out at Iowa State in college.
Brady.
Right. And like within 2 seasons, he wins the Super Bowl. Like you said, I don't think he's going to be nearly as successful outside of the Niners offense and under Shanahan. I think you can pretty much plug and play anybody in there aside from Trey Lance, who needs to just cut his hair at this point. But that's a really great storyline. I think for me, it's that Ravens, Lamar Jackson quieting all the haters, finally getting that monkey off of his back and getting paid. Because if this doesn't do enough, then I don't think anything ever will.
Yeah.
Then you got Jared Goff discarded for Matthew Stafford. But then if you start looking at it that way, then you always have to be careful of the team who played their Super Bowl early and beating the Rams at home and getting that victory and stuff like that. And you know what I mean? That also could be, even though I think they beat the Rams and then they beat the Bucks, right? So maybe they did get over that hangover then. Yeah,
that's a huge momentum swing.
That's so Jared Goff going from discarded, like throw in for salary purposes filler quarterback until Detroit drafts its own quarterback, and all of a sudden it's, oh, we're one step away from the fucking Super Bowl with this guy.
But when Jared Goff, if he does go to the Super Bowl, he's going to be the one that has experience. Like that won't be the first time for him.
Yeah, it's fucking scary.
Well, it's like I was looking at the like what the Lions actually truly got in that Matthew Stafford trade. So for those who don't know, Rams Lions trade Stafford and Goff, but the Lions also pick up a 2021 third round, a 2022, and a 2023 first round pick. That translated to Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Broderick Martin, like Jamison Williams, Milifanu, the D-back that they have there that got that third round. So it definitely looks like the Lions got the better part of that deal.
Long term.
Rams got a Super Bowl though. I mean, you got to pay the piper, man.
Life, death, time, space. Forget everything you think you know. Put your money on the line. It's time for Ricks versus Gricks. Gricks?
Man, talk about the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to have to rename it to the Zuper Bowl because Zoo went 4-0 in Ricks versus Gricks last week. Congratulations to Zoo. Man, I don't know what is going on. And then you had Reid and Luis coming in at 3-1. And then you had me, Captain Mid himself, coming in at 2-2. I almost had it. Because the Bucks and the Packers, if the ball bounced another way, I think they could have ended up winning those games. Looking forward, like we talked about, we have the Chiefs 11-6 at Baltimore Ravens, who are 12-5. Before I give Reid's notes, I'm just going to go around the horn. We're going to start below and go to Luis. Luis, who you got?
Which one are we doing first?
Ravens.
Chiefs, Ravens.
Oh, I got to stick with what I said. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Hey, yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting this slew of picks. Zoo, who do you have?
Yeah, I think the Chiefs' holes have been exposed quite a bit, and Mike McDonald may be taking over that. So I'm going to go with the Ravens on this one.
Ooh, all right. So currently split right now. Before I give my pick, Reid was so gracious to give me his picks and his notes. So Reid, he says, can't doubt the Chiefs whatsoever anymore, even with the Ravens' talent outmatching the Chiefs, simply because Andy Reid will game plan as well as anybody, and Mahomes will fight like hell for the win. But Lamar is doing the same right now and has more to play for. Also, can't sleep on John Harbaugh as one of the most consistent coaches ever, so he is also taking the Ravens. But it's going to be a 50-50 split. I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs. I have too much trust in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They have been doing something they haven't had to do in the past, and that's winning on the road. It's going to be a hard-fought game, but I have to take the safe bet. Even though they are opening up as 4-point underdogs, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Nice.
And last but not least, you got the Lions 12-5 traveling to San Francisco to play the Niners, who are also 12-5. Let's just start it off the same way. Luis, who do you got?
Detroit football.
Hey, Detroit. I love it. Zoo, what about you?
That's so wild that both of these teams are 12-5. Like one just being an absolute powerhouse last year, and one it's like, all right, yeah, they got grit, they're doing stuff, they're cool, they're on Hard Knocks. That. I've been saying for a while that I think that, I thought that it was going to be Niners Dolphins. I know I had my thing about Brock Purdy, and they are a team that's going to put up a tough fight, but I just got to go with the underdogs in this one. I'm going with the Lions.
Oh, that's 2 for 2 for Lions. Reid, who do you got? He says, I really, with 3 Ys, want to go with Detroit here and love the young talent they have there and that coaching staff. But San Fran is just so overwhelmingly good and talented. It just feels like their time is due. So Reid is going to be taking the Niners. And for me, I know I am really big into conspiracies. I know the biggest conspiracy right now floating around the internet is the Super Bowl logo being purple and red, and how coincidentally the Ravens and the Niners are still here. So everyone's kind of saying, hey, I told you so, because it's happened in the last 2 seasons. But I think the NFL and Roger Goodell are going to flip the script so that way they can say, no, it wasn't fixed from the beginning. Give me the Lions for Lions and Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Fixing it.
No, blue and red does make purple. So if it is Lions and Chiefs, they are sticking with it.
Oh, but that is it for this episode of Ricks versus Gricks. Let's go around the horn and let everybody know where we can find all of the socials. Luis, let's start with you.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on all social medias by finding at Big Chief Burrito. And you can follow our podcast, Mi Gente Show, anywhere you get your audio.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us again, Luis. It was
absolutely, guys.
Fantastic. I'm glad to see that you're doing better. I was worried there for a second.
Right.
And what about you, Zoo? Where can people find you other than some chai shop somewhere in Virginia Beach?
You didn't come to the chai shop yesterday, by the way.
That's neither here nor there. Reid, cut that out.
Fuck you.
Reid, cut that out.
Yeah, Animation Deliberation on all social medias and anywhere you find your podcast. And also, if you just want to look at cool pictures of houses in the Hampton Roads area, then check out Upright Exposures on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you again, Zoo. And thank you all for tuning in for another great installment of Ricks versus Gricks here on the 323 Network. You know, of course, we always appreciate your support and passion for all things NFL and college football this past season, enjoying the discussions. Stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook at 323 Reid or at 323 College Shame Day. Check out the YouTube channel at 323 Network. Don't forget to subscribe and catch our latest episodes wherever podcasts can be found. But until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Brock Parody